West Michigan stories with a small business probably not known by many outside of the music world.
Yeah, we found somebody who builds handmade musical instruments for world-class performers. Let's go back live to Fox 17's Kevin Craig in Fremont.
And thanks, guys. Good evening, everybody. You know, I have kind of a personal connection to this story. I'm a musician. Tim Jansma is a musician. Just to come in here and do that kind of a thing was fabulous for me. I really had a good time. And for the last couple of hours, we've been showing you and telling you and letting you hear about the high school, the Fremont High School Chamber Orchestra. What's your name?
Ethan Brummel.
Ethan, how long have you been playing violin?
Probably about 7 years.
All right, 7. And these guys sound great. What's your name?
Hannah.
Hannah? How long have you been playing violin?
For like 3 years.
Great. And we've got a couple of, we've got the bass, we have cello out here as well. And here's the connection. The story that we are about to tell you about, the man that we're going to introduce you to is Tim Jansma. He's a world-renowned violin, viola, and cello maker. He makes cellos for world-class, top-notch musicians, but he's also worked on a couple of the instruments that are in this orchestra, so that is the connection. I want to do one more thing before we introduce you to Tim. Marianne, you are the executive director of the Arts Place here in downtown Fremont. You've been in this building since 1998. It's a pretty big facility. There's also a third connection here to our story. If Ben can pan up on the wall, you see Ray and Phyllis Jansma Gallery. That's Tim Jansma's parents who works on the violin. Tell me, Marianne, if you would, their connection here to the gallery and to the Arts Place.
Sure. Ray and Phyllis Jansma are huge music and art supporters of our area, and so our gallery was named in their honor.
Tell me, and quickly, some of the other things that you have here. I know you highlight some of the artists on the wall there. Tell me some other things.
Sure. We have a local artist market featuring area artists. We also offer classes for both kids and adults year-round.
Okay, thank you very much, Marianne. Again, fabulous piece here. Had a great time doing it. I want to take this opportunity and this privilege to introduce you to Tim Jansma, building violins, violas, and cellos. Take a listen. In rural Newaygo County, just outside the Fremont city limits, lies a small violin shop. It's the home of Tim Jansma, one of only a few hundred handmade violin, viola, and cello makers in the world.
I had made a chin rest for a violin and took the chin rest with me out to Philadelphia to William Mennings & Son, and the owner of the shop saw the chin rest and said, "You're hired."
After 2 years in Philly, he then honed his skills on the other side of the world.
The day I turned 21, I ended up going to northern Italy, to Cremona, and was there for about 3.5 years.
These photos show Tim in Italy hand-selecting European spruce. The wood would eventually be shipped back to the United States and used to make instruments. By the time Tim returned home to Fremont in the mid to late 70s, he began playing in the Grand Rapids Symphony and eventually built his own shop.
You keep these pieces together so that when you open them up, it's called book matching.
Once the pieces are bonded together, he can begin scraping, burnishing, and planing what will become the back of the instrument.
Down the road, you know, this is how it looks after the outline has been done. The inlay, they're called the purfling, has been glued in.
Another piece that needs to be made and assembled is the frame or body.
You start out with a form, you glue your blocks, your upper and lower block and your corner blocks are glued on, and then you bend your C-bout on both sides, glue that in.
After that, some 65 hours will be spent on cutting and gouging the scroll where the pegs and strings will eventually be attached.
You start out with a template and you trace the template out and you bandsaw what the tracing is.
While hundreds of hours go into the making of each instrument, one of the final steps is the hardest and perhaps most labor-intense.
The varnish makes or breaks the instrument. If you do a really good varnish job, you can do mediocre woodwork and it's still a great instrument. If you do a mediocre varnish job, you can have the most gorgeous woodwork you want and it's still just a mediocre instrument. It'll never be much.
Jansma violins generally fetch about $20,000, violas $25,000, and cellos about $40,000. They are top-notch professional-grade instruments played by some of the world's finest musicians. in Fremont at the Arts Place here. You can hear the orchestra playing in the background. Tim, by the way, is an accomplished musician. He played in the Grand Rapids Symphony. Both his son and daughter are accomplished musicians, so it's a whole musical family. If you want more on Tim or the Jansma violins, he has a website. If you go to fox17online.com, I've got a story up there with the link to his website. You can get all the information that you need there. I hope you folks enjoyed this. I had a great time, and they know some Beatles stuff. I'm going to hope to hear that after this. Reporting live in Fremont for another edition of West Michigan Stories, I'm Kevin Craig. Guys, back to you.
Boy, good stuff. That's great, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, it's been 10 years since